Dillian, the body snatcher right here. It's a champ. Big up to Sporting Icon. Subscribe. Otherwise, I might pay you guys a visit.
Right, so I'm just going to do a quick video here. Well, hopefully it'll be quick anyway, because the last video where I assumed that the Ring magazine were talking about giving the belt to Wilder. Now, it doesn't say that they are going to give it to Wilder. It doesn't say that they're not either. So a lot of this has been open to interpretation. Why they couldn't just be clear and say, well, what we want is, we want the number 1 and number 2 fighting each other, so therefore it's going to stay vacant. What we want is the winner of Parker and Joshua to face the winner of Wilder versus Ortiz. But they didn't say that, did they? This is what they said. For the record, the vacant Ring Heavyweight Championship will not be on the line for the IBF, WBA and WBO title unification bout between Anthony Joshua and Joseph Parker. Joshua and Parker are rated number 1 and number 3 by the Ring respectively. There have been occasions when a vacant Ring championship has been contested by number 1 and number 3. However, after careful consideration, we do not feel Joshua Parker qualifies at this time. The Ring ratings panel unanimously believe that Deontay Wilder is the second best heavyweight in the world on merit. That's their statement. Now, okay, it didn't say that they're going to give it to Wilder, but what it does clearly say is that it's not going to be on the line for Joshua versus Parker. So, what are they going to do? Are they going to put it on the line for Wilder versus Ortiz? Why didn't they say it will not also not be on the line for Wilder versus Ortiz? Why didn't they just say that? Why did they leave it open for interpretation? Here's the other thing. So, some people are saying that they're probably going to keep it vacant for Joshua versus Wilder. That's great. But here's the thing. What if, for argument's sake, Joshua wins and Wilder wins? Okay, so people go, yes, okay, great. We're going to get the undisputed title fight next. This belt will be on the line. That all makes sense. That's all well and dandy. So that'll be the next fight in the summer. As history would have it, Wilder talks a lot but doesn't do a lot. Already, he had first refusal to take on Joshua right now. But he didn't. He priced himself out. And you can say, well, he started off at 50% because that's how you negotiate. You negotiate high and then hopefully get more than what your lowest offering is going to be, maybe 30%. But here's the thing, he didn't negotiate. He refused to drop after 6 weeks. He stayed at 50%. So he's unwilling to negotiate anything less. I want 50-50. And it's not just him saying it behind closed doors. He said it on camera on a couple of occasions. So we still may not get that unification fight, that undisputed fight even. So there's no guarantees on that one. So again, we could be waiting for a very, very long time. So what was the point in stripping Tyson Fury of the Ring magazine belt, right? Here's the other one. What if Parker or Luis Ortiz wins? What happens? As Wilder is doing a voluntary, I'm presuming that there'll be a rematch clause in there. We already know that there is a rematch clause for Joshua Parker. So if Parker wins, guess what? It's still not going to be an undisputed fight. So therefore, this belt is sitting around collecting dust, doing nothing. Now, okay, so the belt's been inactive for 2 years because Tyson Fury's had it. He hasn't had a fight. Finally, he sorts out the UK situation, and the British Boxing Board of Control said, come on then, let's apply for a license. Let's get your medical done. Let's get you back in the ring. So the Ring magazine said, right, okay then. So as we've been waiting for, what, 2 years, then I know you're just about to have a fight. It's any day now you could be announcing it and this, that and the other. But guess what? We're going to strip you off the title. What was the point? If it's just going to sit there vacant, then what's the point? Because by the time we get number 1 versus number 2, Tyson Fury would have already had a fight or 2 by then, surely. Here's the other situation. Anthony Joshua wins. Deontay Wilder wins. Deontay Wilder is quite willing to be the B-side, which he is the B-side when it comes to fighting Anthony Joshua. No argument on that. Well, in fact, he's probably C-side, to be honest. But regardless, if he was to say, okay, then I'll accept the 30% or whatever it may be. And Eddie Hearn goes, well, you know what? What we do know is that the WBC are calling them mandatory for the summer. In other words, you have to face your mandatory. Yes, okay, we could do unification takes precedence, all that kind of thing. But here's the thing. Dillian Whyte just beat Lucas Brown. He's a mandatory. Why would I put you in a fight with Joshua when I could put Dillian Whyte in with you? Dillian Whyte could potentially beat you and there would be no rematch because he's a mandatory. And therefore, I could have Anthony Joshua versus Dillian Whyte for undisputed. That means I get paid double. Why wouldn't Eddie Hearn do that? Of course he'd do that. Do you really believe if Dillian Whyte became the mandatory and the WBC called the mandatory, that Eddie Hearn would say, no, hang on Dillian, I don't want double pay. I don't want undisputed between you and Anthony Joshua. I want undisputed between you and Deontay Wilder. Do you really believe that he would do that? Of course not. Of course not. So again, you're going to be waiting a lot longer, right? And also, let's look at the WBA situation. The WBA was originally Luis Ortiz, was the mandatory. He's supposed to have fought Anthony Joshua, who's the current champion, after he beat Vladimir Klitschko. But the rule said because he was the IBF champion first and he already had a mandatory, that he was allowed to fight Kubrat Pulev. Hence the reason why he wasn't stripped. Pulev didn't quite work out, so they got Takam. IBF mandatory done. Since then, Luis Ortiz failed that PED test and the WBA suspended him for 9 months to a year. But the WBC didn't. Now the WBA should not have suspended him. If the WBC didn't do it, then they shouldn't have done it, right? So, they still want their mandatory fulfilling currently. That's Alexander Povetkin. So, the WBA could say, yeah, okay, we could say that unification takes precedence, but guess what? We're not going to sanction that. You are going to face Alexander Povetkin next. So, to cut everything short, there's no guarantees of a Joshua Wilder next. That belt is going to sit there. It could potentially sit there for another year or two, maybe longer, without it being contested between number 1 and number 2. Hence the reason why it should be on the line for Joshua versus Parker. And if they don't put it on the line for Joshua versus Parker, and they don't put it on the line for Wilder versus Ortiz, I mean, if you weigh them up, both these fights, be sensible. It should be Joshua versus Parker. Going by the ring ratings, number 1 versus number 3 is better than number 3 versus number 4. I'm presuming Luis Ortiz is number 4. I don't know. So number 2 versus number 4 or number 1 versus number 3. So if they don't, then for me, I think Anthony Joshua, should he win, should turn around and say, well, you know what, when I go for the undisputed, even though I'm ranked number 1, you know, you didn't sanction that fight between me and Parker, and I'm not fighting Wilder next, so eventually when I do fight him, you can stick that ring magazine right where the sun don't shine, because I'm not going to fight for it. So what was the point in stripping Tyson Fury if it's just going to sit there collecting dust? Okay, it was sitting there collecting dust with Tyson Fury, but he's about to have a fight next. Okay, it has to be a top 5. Now here's the other thing, is that their rules say it has to be top 5. The Ring Magazine title holder has to fight a top 5 opponent. Well, the Ring Magazine champion should be ranked number 1. That's the first thing first. Tyson Fury has now been dropped out of their rankings. So, number 1 is Anthony Joshua. He's fighting Joseph Parker, who is, guess what, a top 5. Again, you could say, well, Wilder versus Ortiz, they're also top 5. I agree. I totally agree with you. Now, I would be okay for Wilder and Ortiz to have that title on the line if Joshua wasn't fighting Parker. So if the WBA said, you know what, you're not fighting Parker, you're fighting Povetkin, as a for instance, then I could say, okay, you know, weigh up the 2 fights, then yeah, Wilder versus Ortiz, that should have the title on the line, right? If Joshua was fighting Pulev or anybody else that's not Joseph Parker, then Wilder versus Ortiz, yes, that probably should have the belt on the line, because it's 2 top 5 people going up against each other. So I can certainly see that point of view. But what I don't see is, why would you either A, award it to Wilder, B, if you're not awarding it to Wilder, at least put in your damn statement some clarity. But for me, I'm thinking they didn't put it down as clarity because they want me and you talking about them. That's what they want. They want us talking about the Ring magazine. They want us speculating. They left it open for interpretation for a very good reason. So their title becomes relevant again. That's why they've done it. But the trouble is, people are talking about it, but not in a good way. So anyway, that's my thoughts on it all. For me, if it's not going to be on the line for Joshua versus Parker, then it should also not be on the line for Wilder versus Ortiz. If they're going to wait for Joshua versus Wilder, they could be waiting for a very, very long time. And if these two fights if this fight doesn't happen after the next ones, and the Ring magazine got up to Joshua and say, right, well, you know what, we're not going to wait around. Here you go, here's the belt. Joshua should just take it off him and put it straight in the trash can right next to him and say, look, you should have put that on the line, but you didn't. Drop your thoughts below, click thumbs up, subscribe. Catch you in the next video.